All right, welcome everyone. I'm so very excited to have Sherry Sims, the founder and CEO of the Black Career Women's Network, with us tonight. Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me, Jacqueline. I'm so glad that I'm on the other end of a Google Hangout for a change.
So, we're going to give everyone another minute or so to log in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm just going to send another tweet. All right. So 6:02, we're going to go ahead and get started. So you all know me. I'm Jacqueline Twilley of Navigating the Career Jungle, and super excited today as a member of the Black Career Women's Network to have our amazing leader, Sherry Sims, joining us. Tonight we're going to be talking about 4 ways to improve the quality of your work life. And before we get started, I'm just going to read a portion of Sherry's dynamic bio so that you all can get to know her a little bit more if you don't already know how fabulous she is. So Sherry is the founder of the Black Career Women's Network, as I mentioned earlier. She has a passion for helping professionals discover, focus, and utilize their strengths to develop and manage their careers. After working 12 years in the human resources industry as a corporate recruiter and HR generalist for corporations such as CVS, AT&T, and AOL Time Warner, she had a strong desire to make a career change. She says, I wanted to do something different where I could take all my experience in HR and recruiting and utilize it in a different way. When she made the transition in 2012 from corporate recruiter to career coach, she discovered a passion for helping people strive for career success, specifically Black women. Inspired to create a network due to a lack of access to other professional Black women for peer support and mentoring in her own career, Sherry founded the Black Career Women's Network. The platform was originally established in 2008 through social media as a sounding board and forum to provide support, share experiences, and career advice. In the beginning, she says, I did not work on building the network, and it lay dormant for a long time. However, once I became a career coach, it took off and has been growing rapidly ever since. So I'm so glad that Sherry followed her passion, that she didn't let Black Career Women's Network stay dormant, because it has been a huge benefit to my career personally. So Sherry, again, thank you. And I want to let everyone know tonight we're using 2 hashtags. We're using the NTCJ, that's the Navigating the Career Jungle, and also the BCWN, and I'm going to update my handle so that you can see both of those. You can ask questions tonight via Twitter using these hashtags, or you can just pop them in the Q&A box right here on Google Hangout. So, Sherry, without further ado, take it away.
Wow, thank you. That's such an awesome introduction. And like I told Jacqueline before we started the Hangout, I was so happy to be on the other end of a Google Hangout for once. This is like fun. It's like fun for me now. So I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. Jacqueline Twilley, as you may not know, is a BCWN career mentor, and we love her. And I'm sure she'll share some information about that at the end of her Google Hangout. But thank you for having me and being a part of your circle of influence in your network. So we're talking about quality of your work life. So you always hear of people talk about work-life balance. Hear people talk about making sure that home is balanced out with work. But we never really think about, is our work life really balanced out? And what does that mean? What does that look like? And so this is really what we're going to be talking about tonight is, what does it mean to have a quality of work life. So forget about your personal life right now. We're talking about balancing out your work life specifically, and what does it mean to have a quality, what does it mean to have a quality of work life, and what does that look like, and what does it do not look like. So we're going to look at both of those things, or share both of those things, and talk about what those are going to be. So I think what I want to start with first is motivation, because in order for us to create a strong quality of work life, it really is about how motivated are you to make the changes. But do you recognize if you're experiencing burnout, if you're experiencing stress, if you get up in the morning and you're like, oh gosh, I got to go to work again, not now. Thinking about what are some of the elements of what we need to look at to create a balance to help regenerate what we need to do in order to create this work-life balance based on motivation. So when we're thinking about motivation, let's think about what is the first thing that you do when you get out of the bed in the morning. So Jacqueline, when you get out, what's the first thing that comes through your mind when you get up in the morning for work?
The first thing that I do when my eyes open in the morning is I express gratitude to God for giving me another day to wake up. That's my very first thing.
All right. So she gives gratitude, which is definitely what we should be doing, right? Absolutely. But we're going to look at it from the end of great motivation to no motivation, and the importance of why having a balance of work life is not work life, but a balance of quality of work life is important, and why motivation is, to me, number one in terms of being able to make the change. All right. So if you get up in the morning and the first thing you're thinking is, oh, I gotta get up and I gotta go to work. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And that's the first thing you're thinking. You're not gonna have the motivation or the drive to make the changes that's gonna help to create more of a balance or more of a quality of a work life. So you need to acknowledge where is your motivation level and what is impacting that, and then you need to face that head on first before you can make any changes. So if it's a bad boss, or if it's a coworker that's stressing you out, or if it's your workload is too heavy, maybe it's the commute, if you commute to work. Maybe there's some financial pressures at home that could be impacting the quality of what you're doing at work. You need to think about what is impacting your motivation level before you can start to do anything else to make the change. So I challenge you viewers who are looking. Go ahead, Jacqueline. You had a question?
So, yeah, we do have a question that just came in.
Oh,
and great. She says, Sherry, can you help me out? I realized that my motivation has changed when I found out a peer who is in the same role that I am with less experience gets paid more than me.
Wow.
So she's saying that that's the reason why her motivation has changed.
Wow. Well, here's my recommendation. So this is something that I talk about a lot, and Jacqueline has heard me talk about this, called career empowerment, right? So career empowerment is looking at what's going on in your career, facing it head on, taking charge of that, and being afraid not to make those moves. So in case of this, and this is a very common thing to find out your coworkers making more than you, right? And they don't have as much experience than you do. So this is a common practice, right? So what she can do is look at what's going on in terms of why are they getting more. If she can't find out from anyone why he or she is getting paid more, then maybe she needs to look at evaluating her market value. And what I mean by that is looking at, and Jacqueline, you know about this, and because, your big thing is talking about getting paid what you're worth, from, asking for more, right? So looking at her market value and seeing if it's where it needs to be, and if she can do her homework and find out where her market value is based on education and experience, and also if it's a gender issue in there as well, and then taking that proposal to her manager or who she needs to justify a pay increase to match that, and not being afraid to have a difficult conversation to do that. So you do have power. There is power in what you can do to speak up and present yourself with a proposal as to why you need to get an increase. We just had a woman in the network who found out that someone who got demoted still had the same pay grade, was in the same pay grade as her, but was still at a higher level salary than she was coming in, and she had a lot more experience. And she did just that. She did the research and see what her market value was, based on her experience, the median for the market she was in, and she took the proposal to her manager. And a month later, they went on and gave her an increase that would be effective 30 days from the date. So just instead of being upset and angry or about the situation, empower yourself by doing your homework and standing up to know what your worth is and present to them a proposal for an increase and why it's justifiable.
Sherry, I love that. I think that's spot on, and I hope that, I don't want to say her name because she sent me a text, but I definitely want to encourage her to take your advice wholeheartedly. Don't be bitter. Just go after it. Armed with the facts.
Right. Do the facts. Do not be bitter, because what happens is the reason why we do that is because we feel powerless. We feel like we can't do anything about it when we hear that someone's making more than we are and they have less experience, right? We feel like we can't do anything about it, but we can. It's being smart and being strategic in how you go about approaching it. And if you're coming with the facts, if you're coming with what you know, to be concrete in terms and standing up for who you are in terms of knowing your worth, and then that way you have a justifiable case for going for more, especially if you can compare and say, it's been brought to my attention that this employee is getting more than I am, or they're being paid this amount of dollars more than I am, and I have this amount of education more than them, or this amount of experience, and I feel like that, I should also be compensated, equally in that pay range. So you cannot be afraid. And Jacqueline, your campaign was so dead on talking about this earlier this year about asking for more, and you don't always have to wait until your annual review to do that. So I think that it's definitely a good way to do that. So tell her, don't get angry. Just go to salary.com, you do some market research, find out what your median is, and do what we call a market rate analysis. That's what it's called.
Awesome. So I love that. Thank you so much. And I hope that helps you as you understand your motivation. So the first thing that you discussed when we're uncovering the quality of our work life is our motivation.
Right. And so, and the thing is that the motivation is huge. If you do not have the motivation that's necessary to make any changes to the quality of your work life, nothing's going to change. Now, that's my personal number one, is that you need to have the motivation first. If you have a good quality of if you have a good quality of your work balance, then you're not going to really, this is not for you. This is for someone who is looking to make the changes to where they can have that quality of work balance. So, motivation's first. You can't do anything else if you don't have the drive to make the changes necessary. So that will lead us into number two, which is engagement. Okay, engagement is huge when it comes to the workplace, your workplace quality of your work-life balance. I keep saying work-life, the quality of your work balance. The engagement piece is very crucial. We all have specific tasks within our jobs that we do not like to do. Okay, but we sometimes have to do them anyway. So it's not the small mundane things that you need to look at that may decrease your level of motivation or your engagement within the job. You need to look at is it some of the bigger things within the dynamics of what you do that are decreasing your engagement, and then what are you going to do about that? Is it because you're not working in your strengths? Maybe you want to be able to do more projects, and maybe they're giving them all to Sue, and they're not giving you an opportunity to do those projects. What is it? Is it something that maybe you're wanting to be more creative or need more of a creative outlet? Maybe you're not in the right job. So you need to recognize your level of engagement. And the one thing I want to say about engagement is this as well. Just because you are in a position that pays well doesn't mean that job is actually the right job for you. Doesn't mean just because it pays well doesn't mean you're getting job satisfaction. It doesn't mean you've got a good quality of work balance. Doesn't mean that. You're just bringing home a nice fat paycheck.
Yes. I hear so many people who make really, really lovely salaries, but they are not fulfilled at work.
Yes. So you need to be, in order for the quality of your work of your work life to be right. The quality of your work life can only be right if you are engaged in the right type of work that is meant for you to do. If it's strength based, not based on your weaknesses. We can only manage our weaknesses. We cannot fix them. So if you are working, if the quality of your work life is based on your strengths, then it's really everything's going to kind of work itself out because you're already working in your natural gifts. But again, don't sell yourself short because of a paycheck. And again, like you said, nice paycheck, we're miserable. Okay, lack of engagement, motivation level's not there. All you're waiting for is the 1st and the 15th, and you're off and running. So it's important to understand that see what you're doing is going to be a great match with who you are. Which leads me to number 3, which is your job in line with your values? Very, very important. Are your professional values in line with the company's values? Because that also impacts your motivation. It also impacts your engagement. If your company's values are not in alignment with yours, that is going to impact the quality of your work life tremendously. It's going to impact how you perform on the job. It impacts, again, I'll say this again, your personal, evaluate what your professional values are against the company's values, because it does impact your motivation level and your engagement.
Right.
So definitely, those are
Sherry,
okay, I couldn't hear you.
I definitely have a question.
Oh, sure.
I have a question for you on that. So can you break down, I work with a lot of young professionals, and a lot of times they don't understand what values they should be looking for in a company to really understand if their values are aligned with the company's values. So can you break that down for us a little?
Good question. Well, if you're not doing your research, and most millennials, you guys are more savvy on the laptops, computers, the desktops, smartphones than anyone other in the generations, right? So you should be able to access their company website, and that's where you want to go first to see if the company's values are posted on their about page or about this company page. And if they are, it will give you a good idea of what those values are. Then what you do is that you take those values that you found from the website and you take those values into the interview and talk about those, ask questions about those values. Go deeper into what they mean by these values, because sometimes a value may be interpreted a certain way, but their definition of how they use that value in the company's org structure or their organization may be different than your perception. So that to me, take those values into the interview and ask them specifically about those values in the workplace. If you do not know or you don't have access to those via the internet, then ask them specifically what are their core values. And then once they're able to name those off, and most of them should be able to, and then you can still at that point go into depth to have them really kind of go explain how those values are incorporated into their business. So that way it'll give you an idea of where those fall to see if they're going to be in line with your professional values and what's important for you, and the type of environment that you know that you're going to be able to thrive in. So that's important to know.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much. That was right on point.
So
we talked about.
Go ahead.
We talked about the motivation to kick it off, and then we went into. Go back to my notes here, because I am taking notes and I'm tweeting at the same time. So you can join us on Twitter, BCW and hashtag NTCW. Then we talked about engagement, and then you asked us, are your values aligned with the company's values? Mm-hmm. So what's the fourth thing that we need to do to improve the quality of our work life?
Explore your options. Explore your options. And I'll tell you why. Because if you think that that's the only place that you're ever going to be or need to be, then you will not grow. So you've got to know that where you are is temporary, and that you need to learn what you need to learn from that particular role And then that way what you're learning there is going to take you to the next level. So you have to explore your options, which is, to me, stay active in your career and know what's out there and what could be next for you. Because you do not want to stay stagnant and you do not want to feel trapped. The quality of your work life will feel so much better when you know you have options. If you feel like you have nowhere else to go, or if it's a dead-end job and you're like, oh, this is it, this is as far as I can go, I don't have anywhere else I can go, or I've kept out on my salary, there won't be any more salary increases. If you start to feel like this is a dead-end job, or there's nowhere else for you to go, or you've maxed out, you definitely need to be exploring your options. You can't have a quality of work life if you're not exploring what those are. You have to be able to see other possibilities and know there's no limitations on what you can do. And that is the last one.
Absolutely.
We definitely could go into some more, but I want to go back and talk more about the values, the person that your values, because I think that what happens as young adults, what they do not understand specifically sometimes until they get to that stage in life, and I don't want to sound like I'm being preachy, you guys. But when you go through stages, when you start to develop and grow, and I mean as you get older, let's just call it what it is, right? As you start to grow older, for those of you who are probably in your 20s and you're about to turn 30, and you're looking, once you get to 30, you're kind of looking at things a little bit differently, kind of about what's next for you in life. And when you make that shift, sometimes your values also change along with that. So it's maybe your personal values that may change, or it may be your professional values that may change. But if your professional values may change, you definitely need to think about where you are now, and if the company you're working for currently is still in alignment with the changes that you're making within yourself. So that that goes back to number 4 about exploring your options and not getting stuck.
We have a question from Aletha, and Aletha says, I think that as I get older, as you just mentioned, my professional values change a little. Is this normal?
Absolutely. Your professional values will change, and they will change again once you get 40 because you'll start looking at life a little differently again, and you're going to want that desire. So absolutely, it's absolutely normal for your professional values to change. And this is why exploring your options is in this top 4, is because you need to make sure that is it Aletha? Is her name's Aletha?
Aletha, yes.
Yeah, just like her professional values are changing, if your company that you're working for currently is still not in alignment with the changes you're making as far as your professional values, then it's going to be time to explore your options and see what's next. So those are things you have to constantly keep in your mind.
I think that's great. And Aletha, I hope that answers your question. And I think, even I needed to know that it's okay for your values to change as you grow as a person and as a professional. Thank you so much, Sherry. I love your nuggets.
Yeah, you have to think about that, because I always tell young professionals, who you are at 23 or 24 is not who you're going to be at 34. It's who you are at 34 is not going to who you're going to be at 44. You're not. You're going to change. You're going to grow. You're going to evolve. But the thing is, in order for you not to get stuck, you need to recognize those changes within yourself. And when you acknowledge those, then you need to kind of work out everything else to be in balance with that. So when Aletha said, you know what, I noticed that my personal values are changing. Okay, great. So now you need to start assessing everything around you to make sure that everything is in alignment with your personal values. That's how you create the quality of your work life, by staying aware of the things about who you are as a professional as you grow, specifically millennials, young professionals.
Awesome.
Us old people too. Because I know when I decided to make the change from HR into corporate recruitment, I was in my early 40s. So it wasn't as if I had this epiphany. I just knew I was ready for something different, and it took me doing a self-assessment of who I am now as a professional at this stage in my life in order for me to create this shift and explore my options. So, we just, we have to keep that continuously cycle of being aware of these things about ourselves as we continue to grow.
And I have another message here from Tracy on Twitter, and Tracy just like echo what you said about engagement, really resonating with that point.
Yes, engagement is important because what happens is with engagement is that whether you want to believe it or not, other people around you can see it. They can see your engagement, whether it is a lack of or if you are completely all in. That your coworkers, your manager may not be able to see it if they're not right there in front of you on a daily basis, but the people who are working with you every day, they're going to be able to recognize your level of engagement because it comes out in your energy level, your sociability that you have in the workplace. It may come out in your attitude, whether we would want to believe it or not. So those are some of the things that we need to recognize when it comes to the engagement, and have the hardcore talk about what can we do to make the change.
I think that's awesome. So our time just flew by. It always does in these 30-minute sessions. So I just want to recap for everyone where they can find you, and then let's tell them about what's coming up in August. So I've been tweeting all night, so if you missed anything, head over to Twitter, use the hashtag BCWN or NCCJ, you'll get those 4 pointers. And I'll also write a blog post recap and do a podcast later this week with Sherry's tips, just so if you missed them, we can get them to you again. So Sherry is on Twitter at BCWN CEO and the
BCW Network CEO.
I'm sorry, BCW Network CEO. And the website is bcwnnetwork.com. So August 7th and 8th is the first Black Career Women's Network Conference in Cincinnati at the Centos Center. The lineup is amazing. The theme for the conference is passion, power, and pursuit. And I think those 3 words, it's 3P, and I just can't say enough about how that just combines everything. So Sherry, tell us a little bit more about the conference.
Yes, again, Jacqueline summed it up really nicely. It's going to be our first annual conference. Again, the 3 Ps, passion, power, and pursuit. And I'm really excited about that because I think those 3 things can drive things. Passion is the driving force. Knowledge is power, and then pursuit is what we need. Our instincts is what helps us to go after what we want. So it's really all about empowerment, career empowerment, professional development for African American women. We're going to have breakout sessions and panel discussions, and Jacqueline's going to be talking about work-life integration. Woo woo! And she's also going to be on Boss Moves for Career and Business Work panel, and she's also going to be sharing her book, Navigating the Career Jungle for Young Professionals. So we're excited to have her be participating in our conference. So we're really excited about her presence. So, but she's already given you the information of where you can find out about where to register. We do have a special right now, which is a bring a friend rate. So you might want to take advantage of that. For those of you who are in Atlanta, you're nothing but a 7-hour drive away and probably an hour and a half on the plane. Right. You definitely take advantage of that bring a friend rate and come in and join us for a day of career empowerment.
And I was just telling Sherry before we went live that I was speaking to a young lady last week, and she has invited 3 of her girlfriends. They're renting a car. They're making a road trip out of it. And I think that's awesome when you have girlfriends that you can create a road trip and get some professional development, empowerment. So, get your girlfriends together. Y'all rent a car, get a hotel, go in together, and meet us in Cincinnati for the Black Career Women's Network Conference.
Yes, indeed. We're excited to hope to see you guys there.
All right. So Sherry, I want to thank you again for joining us. As I mentioned to you all, I'm going to do a special bonus episode on the podcast to give you Sherry's tips. It's probably going to be about 5 minutes because I want everybody to watch her video. This replay will be available online later tonight, so I'll tweet that out to you. And I'll also make sure that I include the link to register for the conference with the Bring a Friend rate. So I'll see you all in Cincinnati, and also hit me up online. Thanks again, Sherry.
Thanks for having me. Bye, ladies.